call to order the Ashland Board of Commissioners meeting for Thursday, May 26, 2022. We'll start with an invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we begin our meeting today with thanksgiving. We thank you for our city, Ashland, Kentucky, and we once again ask you for your divine wisdom and guidance as we strive to make the right decisions for our city and its people. Help us to be good stewards of all our resources and to be mindful of the responsibility we have to our citizens and their needs. We pray and our hearts go out to the victims and their families of this tragic shooting in Uvalde, Texas. May your Holy Spirit comfort them both now and in the coming days as they attempt to heal. Bless and protect our city and our schools today. Bless our city manager, our staff and employees, and those in attendance today. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Let's stand and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'm winded after that.
Thank you, Mr. Wirtz. We have a motion to receive and file the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearings and reports. Commissioners, we'll start. Go ahead.
If you don't mind, I'll start. First, I want to say thank you for being here today, first and foremost. But also, today is graduation day in Ashland High School, Blazer High School, and I wanted to say congratulations to all of those graduates and congratulations to those families who got those graduates to that point, as well as all of the teachers and the staff that had a hand in that. I don't have a graduate this year. But at the end of today, mine will be a senior in high school, and I know it takes an absolute village to get those kids to the finish line and beyond. So anyway, congratulations to all of those involved in that today. Just a quick note on the Ashland in Motion front, June 3rd is First Friday, so come out for that. We are still looking, I think, for vendors and Commissioner, am I correct in that? Vendors and groups to set up if they choose to do so. Also, tickets are on sale now for Ashland in Motion's Firkin Fest, Saturday, June 8th, and you can find those at ashlandinmotion.com. And it looks to be a hopping day in the city of Ashland that day. There's also a show on the riverfront from the Paramount Arts Center. So we're going to have lots and lots of people downtown and all over the city on Saturday, June 18th. So be mindful of that. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Spriggs?
Speaking of school, hello everybody. Speaking of schools, I've been at Verity or Ashland Middle School this morning presenting awards for the DAR Junior American Contest. Their art department submitted designs for a stamp to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And a 6th grader won at Pogue, won at State, and then got honorable mention at the Eastern Central Division. So really proud of those children over there and seeing them getting all their awards, and I couldn't help but feel proud. My children went through there, and now 2 have PhDs and 1 has a master's degree. Great education system here, I have to say. So also went to a ribbon cutting. Commissioner Blanton was there on at 1611 Winchester Avenue, a new aesthetics place. It was very nice. And another woman-owned business. We're always happy to see new businesses in our town, especially women-owned businesses. I'm a little partial to that, but it was all good. So that's all I have.
All right. Commissioner Goode?
I'd just like to welcome everyone, and I just want to say I'd like to thank DJ Reimer and the Community and Economic Development Department and several members of the staff that were all involved in Repair Fair. We were all there, my fellow mayor and commissioners were all there, and it was a very well-run event. This was an off-the-cuff thing, just like a lot of things are after COVID. We were at an Easter egg hunt, which was just off the cuff, and then we were talking and said, "How about Repair Fair?" And then it came to pass within a couple weeks, and there was over 100 volunteers, and breakfast was served, lunch was served, and a lot of projects. They left Ashland a little bit prettier at the end of the day.
And we all got T-shirts.
And we all got T-shirts. T-shirts and food were the big draw. But I will also be at graduation tonight. I have 21 of my former players graduating, thank God. And wear short sleeves because it'll be inside. That's all I have.
All right, Commissioner Blanton.
All righty. You're absolutely right, Commissioner Goot. Repair Fair was an amazing event. Great job, DJ Reimer and all the rest of our staff that were there. It's, you see what, half a day or a few days or a few hours for some of us volunteers, but, it means the world to some of these citizens that have these jobs done that they're just not able to do themselves. So that's a wonderful event. Burger Week still going on. We were a little bit late in my household getting to our first burger yesterday, but definitely participate in that. You can find the details on Visit AKY's site or Facebook page. This weekend we have the movie on Saturday at Broadway, and also a concert on Friday at Broadway at 7 p.m. Of course, our friends in Ironton are having the Memorial Day Parade on Sunday. Longest running Memorial Day, thank you. On Monday, longest running Memorial Day Parade in the country. So we've been talking to them a little bit and very proud to support that. And speaking on Memorial Day, Memorial Day and Veterans Day are two different holidays, right? Memorial Day is to remember those who paid the ultimate price in battle for our country. And a lot of those who were in conflicts overseas, they still fight a battle to this day and in mental health, and we want to remember them. And a great way to observe this holiday is to reach out to someone in your life and veterans and just check up on them and be there for them and give them some support. And because we have every day we lose a few, and they pay the ultimate sacrifice as well. So it's important to remember them on this holiday.
May I say one other thing, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
If you would like to volunteer at Firkenfest, you can go online at Ashland in Motion and sign up to volunteer. We're looking for volunteers, and I just wanted to say thank you, Commissioner Blanton. Yes, it used to be known as Decoration Day, and it's evolved into Memorial Day. We'll be putting flags on veterans' burial places in Ashland Cemetery tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
I'll be over there after I get done with Veterans.
Thank you. All right, I just want to make a quick note. Yesterday, we had our picnic for our employees down at the pool, and we haven't had that in a while due to COVID, and really appreciate Amber Berry doing all that she does in her regular role as our parks, in our parks. But yesterday, she was also the chef, and so she was making her way through there. And we don't do this often enough, and I just want to make sure that our employees know that we are eternally grateful for the work that they do every day on behalf of our citizens. While I was down there, I was able to check out the pool, and it's almost ready, and we are excited for our families to be able to get out there and use that space. We do have lounge chairs for the first time in history at Dawson Pool, which is nice.
Is the slide up?
Slide is not up as of
well,
yesterday.
I'm waiting on, Commissioner Good is going to go down the slide.
I thought you were going down it. No, it's Commissioner, okay.
I volunteered Commissioner Good.
But
We'll tandem.
we do,
All right, that's a picture in my head.
that picture
that
in
may
your
be a
mind.
pay-per-view event.
Two video coming up.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention, though, is we have been in budget discussions, and we have tentatively got some improvements that we're going to be making to the pool, including hopefully a splash pad down there and some other things maybe in the future beyond that. But it's all to the betterment of our citizens, and we're excited to see these projects continue to move forward. I think our parks continue to look better every day. The Sensory Garden, I was over there, the rain has helped blossom those flowers, just as you said, and it's already growing and looking better than ever. So
Looks beautiful.
All right, City Manager.
Mayor, I have nothing. We got a pretty aggressive agenda, so
Okay, that may be a first. All right.
you're welcome.
Public participation at this moment, where anyone with a comment or request may come to the podium and address the commission concerning matters related to city business, services, or personnel. Comments related to election issues or concerning personal disputes will not be allowed. Personal attacks, obscene and threatening language will not be tolerated. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes. A yellow light indicates 30 seconds remain, and a red light means the time limit has expired. Only one speaker is permitted per subject. No action will be taken at this meeting. Those with comments are asked to fill out the inquiry form and leave it with the city clerk for distribution to the proper city department. I see we have our first guest, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Roger Hall, excuse me, and I'm not here representing anybody or any organization. I read a little bit about this in the newspaper, and that's all, and I have questions. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate you. It's nice to be in front of a public forum where they have an agenda. I'll leave it at that.
And not a hidden one, right?
No. I noticed, and I'm assuming that you all have read the deed, the proposed deed, and the proposed lease that goes with it. But you'll notice right off the bat that in the deed, the parties are agreeing that the fair market value for tax purposes of this building is $1.57 million.
Just to be clear, you're talking about the parking garage.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's correct. The PVA office shows, and I think it's about $880,000. That's what's on there for tax purposes. This is important because, of course, the bank's going to get a nice write-off at $1.57 million, and you all are not going to get any more taxes on this building. I looked at this lease, and what I did is I took a piece of paper and made a line right down the middle, and I put one side the bank and the other side the city to see how it affected both of them. And I note that for the bank, they are to get under the terms of this lease a 50-year lease, by the way. And I hate to say it, but none of us are going to be around here when things start to go funny with this lease. But they're to get the entire first floor, their business down there, everything, 7 spaces, parking spaces. They get 16 spaces on the second floor. They get 14 spaces on the third floor. They get 34 spaces on the fourth floor. 24-hour ingress, egress, they have total control of the lower level, and they pay exactly 0 rent. Nothing is coming back to the city under this lease. There are no property taxes, no rent, no responsibility for the restrooms that are down low and the elevators, no responsibility for the structural health of that building. I'm hoping that there's already been an extensive structural evaluation. I hope that's in your packets and you've seen that. I don't know if there is one, but I have to guess that there must be one. They get to retain all their signage. They're getting rid of pretty good insurance payments that they've had to make. And you have to wonder, they've tried this in the past and the city has not taken them up on their offer. So I look over to see on the other side, what does the city get out of this? Well, they get partial use of a parking garage that's been turned down in the past. Now, let's say that you all want to do something else with this parking garage other than park. Under the lease, the bank can say, no, we don't want you to do that, and take everything back. It's a 50-year lease now. We're talking about a lifetime situation here. So I thought, well, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's a plan that I don't know about and I haven't read about where this parking garage, at least several floors and some of the spaces, are going to be that important to the city. And all I know is that we were supposed to have a parking garage down here in the convention center. Haven't heard anything more about that. I assume that's still what's going to happen. So I did a little checking, further checking, about maybe you all are thinking about doing this because we really need parking downtown. Well, you remember the consultant from Greenville, South Carolina, came up here and several times, reports and everything. But at that time, and nothing has changed, the parking garage had 419 spaces, 29 were being used. Now I think there's 40-something that are being used. And the whole thing was about non-availability of parking. He said that between 13th Street and 18th Street, gross underutilization of parking that you have now. There were 380 spaces available, and they
Mr.
checked
Hall,
this several times.
I apologize to interrupt, but we are unfortunately asking that we limit our comments to 5 minutes. If you could just summarize it.
I will do that.
Okay.
I will do that, Mayor. Thank you. I have two questions, major questions. Number one is, what is it that Ashland's going to get from this now in the next 50 years? Second question is, who started this? Did the bank come to you all? Did you all go to the bank and say, we need a parking garage? I have no idea. It seems like we're in a hurry on this thing, and I really don't know why. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Right, Mike Maynard, 1819 Eloise Street, the director for Hillcrest Bruce Mission. And I wanted to come and share with you, it's been a couple months, and I wanted to cover something very specific, and it's about an education and employment specialist position that was created in the last CBDG with the extra CARES money. And so we were able to find the right person, and they started on 18 April, so almost like right about a month ago. And he's a retired veteran from this area, used to own his own business, and has just got a passion for helping people want to be self-sustaining. And since he started with us through our Kentucky Works program, and that's our work placement program, so we have Tess and Angel. They are both starting college in August now. So all their FAFSA's done, college schedule's done. Derek started working out of that program, and so thanks to Ann, she hired him. So, and then Tammy will start working in June. So there's four folks from that Kentucky Works program. From our mature worker program, and that's folks that are 55 plus that we get into our training program. We've got Elizabeth, David, Maddie, and James, and they've all started jobs in this last month. And then from the community service program, which is alternative sentencing from the Boyd County Jail, Stephen started working full-time out of that program with us. And then from folks who just volunteer, where they come in and we do work assessments with them and to help them get where they need to go. Gordon, who was on disability, wanted to work, wasn't sure what to do, and we were able to get him started in a job last week. Heather, who had some student loan issues and challenges of getting into the exact program she wanted to at ACTC. We got those issues cleared up, got her financial aid, and helped through Voc Rehab, and she starts college in August. And then David, who came to us homeless, jobless, wife had just passed away recently, and was in a vehicle accident. And so a lot of challenges living out of his car, and we've been able to get him linked up. And so CARES, I know Lynn's here, CARES been working with him, Veterans of America, or the Volunteers of America out of Grayson, Glalo Apartments, and so he moves into Glalo here in about a week, and then he'll start a job the week after that. That's a lot of people's lives that have been changed in a very, very short period of time. And so, I don't think, is Lorraine, she's not up here, is she? So today, no. Jacob is. So Lorraine had this vision of this position, about 9 months ago. And she called us asking, is this something you think you could probably use? And it's like, oh my gosh, absolutely. And so it took us a little bit to find the right person to do this, but we want to thank the Economic Development Team, Jacob back there, because he's processing all this stuff now for us, and finance going through all this, and the whole team there. United Way provides funding to us also for mentor positions. So as we get folks into this program, we've got folks that are helping get paid by United Way to help mentor these folks. And so, all of this is just pieces to the puzzle that we need to provide all the services, for folks. And these are folks that are from our community, live in our community, and are better off now. So, and I just want to thank you all, because last year when you, almost about this time, you all voted in favor of this position and for the funding to go in that direction. So just want to thank everybody for helping out in the community, and just to let you know the impact that this position has had. So when it comes up again at some point, you might want to think about keeping it going.
Thank you,
Every
Mike.
success story is a wonder, and I appreciate the good work you're doing there, too.
Yes.
Yeah, this is all, we get the question individually, I'm sure, all the time. What are you doing for people who have substance abuse issues, people who are out of work, people who are trying to do something with their life? What's the city going to do? Well, the city supports people like you, because you're the ones that get it done, and our staff members that make that happen with you, it's invaluable. That's how we affect these things. And you've got a golf tournament coming up too, and so if anybody realizes what a wonderful organization this is, support their golf tournament.
Thank you. I didn't have to do shameless self-promotion.
Thank you, Mike. It's your leadership
It
that makes this go, and then your selection of this education and employment specialist was the right man for the right job.
I was his recruiter too when you.
Well, you're making a difference. So.
Thanks, Mike.
Hi, my name is David Williams, and just curious, you made comments about him, but you never answered Mr. Hall's questions. Before I get started, could you at least answer his questions?
It's on the agenda.
Well, we allow the public to make comments, and they can ask questions. We can obviously answer them here in person, or take time to
Okay.
answer those questions that were presented, just like if we decide to do that with you, sir.
Well, the thing I read in the paper about the ordinance that's being approved for the downtown entertainment license, and so I wasn't here last time, but I just wanted to make a comment. If we're going to go in here and we're saying the nonprofits that had been putting up the beer garden tents and everything, I'm assuming that's what it pertains to, no longer wants to do that, and we want to try to recruit restaurants to take care of that type of activity. And if I read it right, they were going to go in here and basically allow the different restaurants that, quote unquote, know how to serve alcohol, be able to establish on various corners. But there's a block spectrum from like 13th Street all the way to 18th Street, and it's just going to be like an open forum that everybody's going to be in coordination, and everybody's going to have the certain color of the week. But then we're going to have an open container zone because we've got this same color container. Is that right? Is that what was talked about?
Isn't that correctly?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, what the Entertainment Destination Center District does is creates a area of the city that during special events that are approved by the city, that licensees can apply for and get a supplemental license from the state and city, and then can serve alcoholic beverages under that supplemental license within that district. And the city will designate a certain type of cup in which those beverages will be served, and then you can move within that district during the event, and limited only to the event, with alcoholic beverages in those cups. That's it, and the long and the short of it. You can't take them out of the district, and you can only do it during those special events.
Has Mr. Kelly, has Chief Kelly been asked or get his opinion on now he's going to have to police an entire zone of, I mean, you guys were young. There's only so many colors of Solo cups that everybody's going to have. Hey, it's blue this week. Have we not thought of those issues, that a lot of the issues, and has the police officers had any input into this?
All the city staff said input into this, and actually, we're about the 11th or 12th city in Kentucky to be doing this, so we're not inventing the wheel here. There's already other cities that I think some of our people have talked to, how they use the cups, and it's not as simple as a red or blue Solo cup. So, yes, it's been very fully vetted and very fully staffed.
They have any issues?
I did not hear any. I can't speak for Chief Kelly, but we talk almost daily, and I don't remember any problems.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, I mean, just kind of elaboration on Mr. Hall. I read about that as well, and, you know, we're talking about what's causing us to rush this. You know, we're looking at potentially another parking garage down here with the convention center on top of that. Do we think that, that the city residents are wanting to maintain two garages? I mean, we don't even know if there's going to be even a need for this garage. Why rush this? Has Steve Cole and any of the engineering, has anybody done research or engineering study to look at it and give it a full examination of health?
Once again, this process has been ongoing for over a year. The engineering department's been in there. Community development has been in there. Almost every department of the city's been involved in this in some point. So characterizing it as a rush, I think, is a little inaccurate.
It's actually clarified, it's been discussed for 3 years.
3 years the
It's-
conversation's been going on.
And actually, part of the need for this is to promote, we have new businesses coming in downtown, and without going into confidential negotiations, we have at least 3 businesses that are negotiating with us for multiple long-term spaces, up to 100 spaces under consideration right now. So I think that pretty much demonstrates that there is a need. And you wanted Mr. Hall's questions answered as to the valuation at $1.5 million. That came from an appraisal from certified appraisers. As Mr. Hall well knows as Master Commissioner, the PVA values are almost universally understated on property in Boyd County. I don't think Roger would disagree with that. When we went to our insurance company to discuss possible insurance on this, they told us the replacement value for this building was $8 million. So,
When you get in there and you start looking at this convention center, and we don't know exactly if the convention center is going to go, but let's say that
It's gonna go.
well, you think it's going to go. I mean, there's a lot between now and then. But my question is
Well, actually, it's a conference center too. It's not, we're not really saying
Yeah.
it's a, there's a slight difference there.
but let's just say the general public comes out and says, this isn't what we want. We don't want to take on this kind of burden. We're already going to pay the TIF bonds of $13 million, and that's already on the public to potentially pay back. So, I mean, this is going to be a huge amount of expense, and let's say they don't, well, then maybe the convention center or conference center is not fully dead. Maybe we say, well, we'll build it on top of this parking garage. Then this lease, this 50-year lease, and it doesn't sounds like Community Bank and Trust has got a really good deal going here. I mean, they've got all the say-so and for zero cost to them. Should this lease not, allow someone who's paying zero cost? What's the general maintenance?
Mr. Williams, we unfortunately do have a request that we keep our comments to 5 minutes, and your time has expired.
Well, that may be the fact. I'll comment further. Mr. Hall may say that he appreciates coming here to speak at a place that has an agenda, but I do appreciate going somewhere and speaking and allowing everybody ample time to get their point across. And that's not here. Every citizen should have the opportunity, as long as he's not babbling along, to be able to make his point across. But you
Sir.
haven't answered any of the questions.
Sir, I made a point to pause your time so when staff responded to you to give you more time. Okay? I appreciate your
Okay.
time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Ritchie. I am the owner of Witt's Frozen Custard on Winchester Avenue. I also own the Line-X protective coatings on Greenup. I'd like to rise in support of this project myself. I drove around the block where my business is, and there is not a parking problem when you look at downtown Ashland as a whole. But if you look between 14th or 15th and 16th Street, on that block between the radio station and Witt's and going to be the mill here pretty soon, there is a parking problem. And a lot of that parking problem is the fact that we have staff that work in all these downtown buildings that are parking on the street. So I'd like to rise in support of this project. I'd also like to put a caveat on that. We need enforcement in downtown Ashland. We need parking enforcement. And we need to make sure we bring that back and have it available with the parking garage that business owners can purchase spots or whatever, that we can tell our employees to park in that area. And I'd like for us as business owners to get together and agree to do that. But I don't know how to get everybody together, but we need to do that. That is a big time problem. And of the 100 conversations I've had with customers that come into my business, inevitably, of that, well, I've probably had thousands, but of that, I've had several that people are like, why is nobody using this downtown parking garage? Why is it not available for just the public to go into and use? So it's here, it's built, it's available right now. I understand, I really respect Mr. Williams, and but as a business owner, the issues that I have on a daily basis with customers being able to find parking, I've got elderly customers who I talk to all the time who will not come in unless they can find a parking spot that is close to the front door. And if they're having to park over on Greenup and walk around the block, they're not going to do it. So I'd just like to voice my, I also would like to say that if you've vetted it, if you've done the engineering and that everything is vetted correctly, yes, I support it. But then I guess all that's been done, right? All the engineering studies and all that stuff? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Ritchie,
Richard.
real fast,
Yes.
and I was sort of mouthing to Commissioner Spriggs, we're both on the board of Ashland in Motion. We can help facilitate that discussion with the downtown business owners about the garage, so
Yeah, I'm not
added it
going to
my
name a
list.
business, but there are 3 employees that park on my side of the street that work on the other side of the street every day.
Yep.
And my employees park in front of our thing every day. Sometimes I park in front of my business on a daily basis. you know?
Exactly, and that's part of the issue, but I'll help facilitate
Yeah,
that discussion.
if we've got availability to be able to use that. Now, my employees who work at night that are getting off at 10 or something of that nature, no, I don't want them walking over there at night. But anytime through the day that are working all the way up through until it gets dark, yes, I want them parking somewhere where my customers can have that parking in front of the building.
And just so you know, the chief and the city manager and staff are actively looking at solutions. Parking problem, what most people don't know, the old yellow line on the tire
Yes.
was declared unconstitutional as a search and seizure by the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, and that's required us to start looking for some advanced technology solutions, since you can no longer do that. But it's under active study right now, and it is a very high priority. I'm speaking for the chief and the city manager, but
When they put the 15...
as recently as this week, we had meetings on what we're going to try and do.
I've had these conversations with Mike backwards and forwards. When they put the 15-minute parking down, it was great, because it at least freed up one spot that people could just run in and grab a coffee or do whatever, But it's, that's just not enough. So I respect these guys, but I think the value of that parking garage, it would take a long time for the bank to recoup that as far as paying taxes in the gift that they're giving to the city. So,
Thank you.
We appreciate your comments, and also appreciate your investment in our downtown.
Hello, my name's David Willey. restaurateur downtown interest with Billy and Christy Bear. We've got Sal's Italian Eatery on Carter Avenue, Bombshells Nails down the other end of Carter. Chief Kelly won't find this surprising, but I was supposed to be coming to back Billy up during this meeting just to give him some support. About 11:15, he patted me on the back and said, "You got this. Go ahead and go in," and voice our concerns. So not really as prepared as some folks here, but just want to echo the gentleman that just spoke. As a business owner downtown that sees it every single day, I know the reports were mentioned earlier about the studies years ago and stuff like that that said that there was ample parking. Regardless of those reports or whatnot, it comes down to what the customer really thinks, and they have a perception of that parking problem. And he hit it nail on the head when it comes to also our staff. We're proud to have 54 employees at Sal's. We've got 25 on a shift. Those are 25 spots that are, taken up also during our prime time of needing all those spots. So I just want to echo what the gentleman said before us. As business owners that are living it every single day, I think it would be monumental for business growth in downtown Ashland. We don't only have Bombshells Nails, we've got Sal's. We also own the building that C.R. Thomas used to be in down on Greenup Avenue next to the police station that we would love to do something with. And if those parking concerns were kind of alleviated, it would be not only huge for us to move forward with some of that building or potential people that are coming in that are looking to invest in downtown. And like I said, I think the big thing is the perception of the community is that there's a parking problem downtown, and especially in our area of the 1600 block. You drive down Carter Avenue during lunch, and there's a lot of businesses around us that are open during the day, that those employees and stuff are in the same spots every single day. So our restaurant suffers, and there's got to be more restaurants to suffer from kind of looking like we're busy when we're really not because of the parking. So regardless of enforcement, regardless of what's going on, the customer base or the people know that there's a parking problem in that area. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Please extend our thanks to the Bears for their continued investment in our downtown. Would anybody else like to speak at this time? All right, we're going to move on to old business then.
Old business, item A, second reading and final approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashe, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract with Bobby's Mulch for the purchase of all labor, materials, equipment, and services for the demolition and removal of all debris of 3844 Cactus Street in the amount of $5,495 for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item B, second reading and final approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashe, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract with Lights Enterprises, Inc. for the purchase of all labor, materials, equipment, and services for the demolition and removal of all debris of 1108 Third Circle Prospect in the amount of $5,200 for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item C, second reading and final approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashe, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract with Lights Enterprises, Inc. for the purchase of all labor, materials, equipment, and services for the demolition and removal of all debris of 3012 Moore Street in the amount of $3,800 for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item D, an ordinance of the City of Ashe, Kentucky establishing an entertainment destination center in the downtown city of Ashland and directing the City of Ashland to apply for an entertainment destination center license from the Kentucky Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, and further establishing the requirements for a licensee to sell alcoholic beverages within the common areas of the entertainment destination center.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item E, second reading and final approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashe, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a deed of conveyance between the City of Ashe, Kentucky and Community Trust Bank, accepting the donation tracts of land commonly known and referred to as the Community Trust Parking Garage, and authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a lease between the City of Ashe, Kentucky and Community Trust Bank, leasing portions of said parking garage to Community Trust Bank.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Go ahead.
At the first reading, I'd asked for this to be tabled, because I had questions. Well, I've done a lot of work between then and now, and I still have concerns about this. So I'll just start with the budget. The total cost for the first year is going to be $434,734. Now, some of that will drop off the next year, but to the point our speakers made, the bank gets everything and we pay for it for 50 years. We don't even get to keep the drive-through, which make an excellent place to pay your utilities, actually. They keep all the parking on the first floor, all these parking spaces. This started 3 years ago. I thought it was 4, and it's been all this time and talk, and then all at once, a month ago, we get this, and it's hurry up and vote on it. I don't like it when I'm rushed on things. We have not done a parking study. It's in there to do a parking, it's in our plan to do a parking study. However, it was not done before we're voting on this. I don't feel comfortable voting on this without having a parking study. We do studies on just about everything we do. As far as inspection goes, I know our former city manager is an engineer and went over there and looked. There has not been, as I know, an in-depth, and I'm not an engineer. I could look at it and not know what in the world I'm looking at. I don't know if it needs to have that. I also know we passed an ordinance last year about parking, and nothing's been done about it. I've asked about it several times, and I know about the parking with the marks, not being able to put that on there anymore. The only way you're going to get people to park in there is drive everybody off Winchester Avenue, and that's going to cause one heck of a mess. I don't see an upside for the taxpayers on this. We're at 25% of our population's at poverty level. We're putting new lighting in there. They get to keep all these parking places. I never saw a lease before where somebody didn't pay something in a lease. And I'm not a lawyer either. So I don't see a plan. I don't see how, they're like, oh, we're not going to market this. Well, look at our cemetery. We got the cemetery too, and we're losing money on that. I can't vote for this until we do a parking study. The bank did try to give this to the city before, and Bill Fisher, acting city manager at that time, kind of laughed at that idea. If it's such a great idea, why doesn't the bank do it? Open it up and let people park in there. Let the bank run it. We keep the taxes. We don't have the expense passed on to the taxpayers for this. And especially in these times, I think it's a dodgy situation. Trying to think what I'm leaving out. There's just a lot. I went over this. I mean, we didn't even, I suggested, do we look at hiring an outside firm to clean the bathroom? No, we have to hire 2 people. We haven't even looked at things like that. There's 2 people in here, and it's expensive to hire more. That's the biggest part of your cost for anything is employees. So that's when they're building repairs, rental maintenance agreements. We're picking up insurance. Now the total is $434,734. So I'm going to ask one more time to table this until we get a parking study.
We have a motion on the floor to table. Do we have a second?
Motion dies.
All right. Would anybody else like to make a comment?
Lots of good information, by the way. Thank you all for speaking. For me, so Roger Brooks, and actually it was our engineering study for the downtown, for the Winchester project. There was a parking study in that didn't cover this, but there was a parking study in that. And I actually did my own parking study, not officially, but I did, and I counted the spaces over almost a year period. Not to bore you with the details of it, but what I came to find out is you look at number of spaces. No, we've got plenty of parking down there. I live downtown. I came home 3 times a day. I know exactly. I parked within my door almost every single time. But we do have a parking identification problem because I noticed I would have to drive around the block several times before I could find a spot, just find one to park in, right? So in that regard, the parking garage does, and David brought up a great point with employees of businesses. That's something that is not popular always to address with people, but we have a problem with that. And when you go downtown, and if you really look at who the people are that are parking downtown, that's a big problem. And maybe this becomes a place for them to park at that opens up the spaces for people to visit our downtown. So But jumping back to the financial aspect of it, there are some upfront costs in that first year. And when we look at the dollar figures, I think that we're also understating the revenue. We will make money on some of those spaces. So that's a point. There's some clarification that needs to happen there with those numbers, which we know what those numbers are, but there is some first-year costs there. So that's, and, you know, I've had to weigh, now, when it comes to what the bank's getting or what we're getting, I mean, they're a company, they're going to do what's good for them, we know that. My concern is our benefit. For me, this is about future growth and what we want to do long-term for the city. So, absolutely, the concerns and the financial questions are things that we have to sit down individually and vet ourselves, and that's what I've done, and so that's how I've gotten to the point that I'm at right now.
And I'm there with you, Commissioner. Yes, it is a cost. It's a significant cost, and I'm not discounting that at all. I think in the long term, what we get out of it far outweighs what the perceived benefit to the bank. One, the public restrooms are paramount, in my opinion. Two, the garage is underutilized at this point because it closes at 7 p.m. We're not going to have that restriction. And it is important for people. I work downtown as well. I'll end up parking over there, I'm sure. It just will make things easier to know that I can pull into a spot and have a space to go. And it gets me off of Winchester Avenue or a side street where people who might be coming to eat or shop are using, which is ideally what we want. In terms of the parking problem, we have, how many spots are at the riverfront, the transportation center?
I don't know.
200, 300? So that number is included in the number of spots that are underutilized and not being used. And so I think that kind of inflates that number. I work at the corner of 17th and Winchester. I'm not going to park at 15th and the river to walk to my office. I'm just not going to do it. Nobody's going to do it. But that's included in that number of highly underutilized parking spaces. When we build the conference center and the garage that goes with it, that garage will support that conference center. And ideally, if we do what we're supposed to do, it's going to be full of the people who are staying at that hotel and maybe another hotel and the conference center. So I think that part of it is not, that the second garage is not part of the conversation, because I think that garage supports that development. This garage supports the argument for the people who work here, the people who are down here every day. And if we do parking enforcement correctly, it's going to be a much more cost-effective solution for people who are coming to shop or eat as opposed to parking on the street, which allows places like Witt's to have somebody run in and grab an ice cream or a coffee and then, or sorry, Richard, custard or a coffee, and then back out. So for me, it is a cost-benefit analysis, and I've come to the same place that yes, there is a monetary cost, but the benefit to our citizens, and especially to the people who are trying to eke out a business in this central business district, it's very important, and I think we go that route.
Okay, so I just want to say, you know, the business owners downtown are their own worst enemies, because they complain nobody can get into their store, but then they park out there. Happens all the time. When you're looking at, when I talked about no plan, they're projecting, and I know this was just done for the budget, that there'd be monthly parking fees of $25,000 and regular parking fee of $5,000. You know, this is supposition. This is just supposition trying to put together something, and I just don't see it. I guess that's all I have to say.
I appreciate those points, and I mean, you're trying to forecast something, and
Yeah.
it's tough. And I completely agree with your concern for the taxpayers on items like this, and I will carry that attitude towards some other things that we have in our budget that we're looking at. And I completely agree with that line of thinking, and I think we're all in line with that thinking.
Well, I just know if this is even correct, that's $30,000. That doesn't begin to, I mean, I don't know. Look, we got the cemetery and we're not doing a very good job there. How are we going to, what's the plan? I didn't see any reason why we couldn't postpone this vote till we see a plan and a parking study. And now I'll shut up.
Commissioners, I appreciate all your comments on this matter. It furthers the discussion that we will continue to have on this project and others. You know, the thought is we don't want to do anything in haste, and it's important that when we're looking at serious money that we take this very serious. If it's even $2, $1 of taxpayer money, we need to be taking it seriously. So I appreciate all your all's comments
Well, again, I
and
don't know why
passion.
the bank doesn't do it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Any other discussions on this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes, I oppose.
All right. Item F, second reading and final approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement for the purchase of real property between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and River Metals Recycling LLC in the amount of $95,000 for use in the wastewater treatment plant expansion project.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? I guess I want to ask one question. Have we made any inroads as to opportunities for funding this project? Have we seen any light at the end of the tunnel as far as guidance from the federal government or?
Mayor, we continue to stay in contact with our local FICO area development district and management funds, as well as communications with the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. Yesterday, I had another telephone call with Infrastructure Authority and discussing the very issues that you bring up and seeking guidance on how the city can pursue some additional grant funds to help offset some of the costs. So those guidelines are still being developed. KIA, as of yesterday, still do not have their exact process for administration of those funds in place. They are continuing their meetings to develop those guidelines, and they hope to have those out very shortly. So there is continued efforts for us to seek out those funds, and the Finance Department also, they have information on these type of programs that we'll also look into in the future.
Well, I appreciate the continued efforts. It's probably the most significant concern for this commission based on cost alone. And so it's something that we need to continue to pursue at every level to make sure that we can see this through for our citizens, because obviously we don't want to burden them with unnecessary costs if we can avoid it. Any other discussion on this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Item G, second reading and final approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and People's Insurance Agency, LLC, to provide property and casualty insurance broker agent placement services from July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2023 in the amount of $14,000 and authorizing payment of the same.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item H, second reading and final approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to submit an application to the U.S. Department of Justice for a comprehensive opioid stimulant and substance abuse site-based program to develop, implement, or expand comprehensive programs in response to the overdose crisis and impacts of illicit opioid stimulants and other substances, and upon acceptance of said grant, to execute on behalf of the City of Ashland any and all documents associated with the grant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, good. What kind of program is this?
It helps with our investigative processes and equipment.
Okay.
that we locate David and see, so, we'll provide the ability to, create a position for an investigator.
Bunch of luminol. I said a bunch of luminol. No, just kidding, just kidding. Okay, thank you.
And back to Commissioner Blanton's point, you know, we're asked all the time, what are our staff, what's our police force doing to fight this epidemic? And this is further proof that you're pursuing every angle, and we appreciate the effort.
Yes.
Any other discussion on this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Item I, second reading and final approval of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an amended agreement with Ashland Community Kitchen, the subrecipient of $30,000 from the 2021 Program Year Community Development Block Grant Funds for the Carroll Jackson Unity Center Food Program to prepare, prevent, and respond to the coronavirus pandemic, which was originally adopted by ordinance number 146, series of 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky establish, we've already done that.
There, you wrote on.
Thank you. Thank you. An ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting, authorizing, and approving the course of action presented by the city manager on the items appearing on the consent agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of City Commissioners of May 26, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. So
New
we're gonna have a
business.
food truck festival.
Item A,
2 food trucks.
first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a short form agreement between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and HDR Engineering, Inc. for professional engineering services in the amount of $207,843,000 for the design and agency approvals of the Dawes Street Rehabilitation Project for the Department of Engineering.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item B, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting the May 2022 Transit Asset Management Plan for the City of Ashland Bus System.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item C, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting a renewal with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield Insurance Company for administrative fees to administer the city's health insurance coverage, vision insurance, Delta Dental of Kentucky Insurance, and stop-loss coverage for plan year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item D, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky approving the renewal for life and AD&D insurance through Standard Insurance Company for city employees effective July 1, 2022, and authorizing and directing the mayor to execute documents relating to said insurance.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item E, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky amending ordinance number 55, series of 2009, previously amended by ordinance number 45, series of 2010, ordinance number 77, series of 2014, ordinance number 81, series of 2018, ordinance number 10, series of 2020, and ordinance number 125, series of 2020, and ordinance number 7, series of 2021, commonly known and referred to as the loading zone ordinance, removing the loading zone in the 300 block of 17th Street, and specifically repealing ordinance number 66, series of 1978, ordinance number 79, series of 1978, and ordinance number 9, series of 1979.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question. This was just kind of a cleanup thing, right? I've read the ordinance, and it just looked like some things were marked out and language changed. It
That's
wasn't
exactly what it
nothing
is.
of significance. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item F, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement with Hillcrest Bruce Mission, the subrecipient of $15,000 from the 2021 Program Year Community Development Block Grant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item G, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Ashland and Mountain Comprehensive Care Center, Inc. regarding an encroachment for a freestanding sign at 2222 Winchester Avenue on the city right-of-way.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
That's a handsome sign. Did you look
I'll-
at it? Yeah,
Haven't seen it.
that's handsome.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item H, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Ashland and First Christian Church regarding an encroachment for a freestanding sign at 1930 Winchester Avenue in the city's right-of-way.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item I, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky designating a handicap parking space on the east side of 17th Street in the 300 block at the intersection of Winchester Avenue and 17th Street, and providing a penalty for violation of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item J, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky amending ordinance number 22A, series of 1989, as amended by ordinance number 128, series of 1989, and ordinance number 154, series of 2020, which established parking schedules and provided a penalty for the violation, establishing no parking areas in the 300 block of 17th Street.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so we're putting, by the previous ordinance, a handicap parking, right?
This just reflects what exists down there on to Commissioner's question on the different changes in the block of 17th Street. The only thing it practically does is takes away the loading zone that's currently on the sidewalks.
Did you read my mind there?
Saw the
Yeah.
bubble.
So we're putting, are these no parking areas already there?
The no parking, is being turned back into parking.
Okay, so provided a penalty in the violation establishing no parking areas.
And we'll basically reduce no parking between two spots.
Okay.
So adding, in your question about the handicap. So you're adding two spots?
Yes, I'm not sure.
Okay,
So that's answer your question.
all right.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Item K, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting regulations concerning mobile food vendors.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a couple of things, actually, one big thing. One, I'm thrilled that we are working toward getting this food truck court in Central Park like we've approved a couple years ago, I guess. Super happy about that, and I appreciate the work that's gone into it. I like the design, I like the plan that we have laid out. My only concern is in the ordinance that we've been provided, there is no fee for the food truck operators to operate in Central Park. And I think that, one, I'm fine with giving this first reading, and I don't know the protocol for this, so I might say this the wrong way. Fine with giving it first reading, tweaking that in some way. Can we do second reading, or does it have to start all over?
Well, you can do it if it's not a substantive change. I think changing the fee probably would be a substantive change.
I think so, yeah.
Because I don't think it is responsible of us, if we're looking at a license that allows a food truck operator to set up in Central Park on any day of the year. So 365 days a year they can set up without a fee of some sort, which will pay for our water and electric service that is available in that space. And I think there ought to be some means by which we recoup some of that. So I would like to, in some aspect of this, provide for a fee for that.
So I think there
We're
probably needs to
essentially
be,
leasing space.
yeah, a discussion on how much that should be, if it's done on a yearly basis or a seasonal basis, or, you know, I mean, I don't think a flat, I don't know. I think we ought to have to talk about it a
Yeah,
little bit.
I think it warrants a discussion.
Yeah.
Mr. Gracie, I know I had a question, and I don't know if we've come up with an answer at what it's going to cost us to prepare that site for the food trucks.
If I could comment on one thing, we, as the staff put this together, we actually had fees in there, and we debated going back and forth for the permit. It was discussed to have it at 1 year, one-time fee. I did actually reach out to one of our city employees, has her husband owns a food truck, and I asked an open-ended question to her, you know, what would be reasonable? She thought in the $100 to $150 range. So that's just one data point at all. But at the end, I felt like the consensus might be, trying to guess the consensus of the board, I thought that you all would prefer not to. So I think it's defendable either way. I understand it both ways. I asked the city engineer just to do a rough swag. Can you pull that up, Ms. Grubb? This is
great.
This is just a proposal of how this could look, and to orient you, on the right-hand side are the restrooms, and then the red squares are basically where 7 food trucks could park. The E is for electric. We did some very initial coordination with the park board. We introduced the topic to them last time. They were interested in getting feedback from the staff, and so this is just another one of these fast-moving trains. I did take a little bit of input, and we included the bollards on there because there's concerns that the food trucks could
Run over the grass. which
yeah,
is a
into the
good
grass,
point.
intentional or unintentionally.
Yep.
And then you see the spacing, there's adequate spacing, there's an entry, there's an exit. But I say all of this to say the intent is to put in 7 electrical hookups. And so with 7 electrical hookups and then marking the space, there was concern from the park board president about this being willy-nilly. So we can mark these spots, that's where they'll go, and it won't be just a hodgepodge every time that you go out there. Rough swag estimate for the electrical, and what was the other one, Mr. Cole? Bollards, thank you, was about $50,000. And that is just, I shouldn't say swag, it's just a very raw estimate. So.
Swag stand for what I think it does.
Yeah, and that's why I apologize for using that. Just a rough estimate would be about $50,000.
$50,000? So it says picnic tables. That's not one of our shelters, is it?
No, it just demonstrates that there'll be eating area in there. Everybody that we talk about this has an idea, hey, we could have a performing stage out there. The thought about putting string lights across there, that's really a cheap thing to do to improve the ambiance. And I absolutely will not speak on behalf of the board. We put them in a tough position because we put this for first reading today. The board meets next Thursday, where they'll have a discussion and they'll give you all a recommendation on any thoughts that they would have on this. But there's, the imagination is a limitation on what you could do down there. We could also, if this turns into something that supports more than 7 trucks, we could park them differently and put in more electrical. Some of the other research that we did, I made the assumption that water was important to food trucks. It's not. The electrical is what's important, and it's important from the aspect that they don't have the generators running. So let's say you do have somebody out there performing, you got generators that are kicking on. That's not a great environment. So the electrical, and there'll be electric costs when they're out there. I don't have any estimate on what that would be. But the proposal is 7 days a week from 10 to 10. We also discussed, when we had the first iteration on this with the staff, we discussed just having it on a couple of days a week, but that gets very confusing and almost impossible to enforce.
So is that concrete already there?
That's already there. That's where the
Okay.
old snack stand was.
Okay, all right.
And there was one other point I wanted to make. One other slight correction from what Commissioner Clark said, that you'll look at the ordinance, it is first come, first serve if the food vendors have the permit and they've gone through the steps, basically the health inspection, the fire inspection. But if somebody else has a special event there, so there's a clothes collection or a repair affair was out there Saturday, then the food trucks can't supersede the event that has a special event there. So that'll be by exception. And then the rest of the city, this has nothing to do with the rest of the city. If you want food trucks down at the riverfront, you would do a special event permit like Paramount does when they have their events down there. So that doesn't become the Wild West also for food trucks ending up other locations. Jim also, I compliment Jim what he did on this. He reached out to a lot of other cities and used some of the best practices. There's stuff in there for ADA accessibility, talking about the responsibility of the food truck owners to take care of their own trash, because you can imagine if they
Oh,
put
yeah.
food stuff
Yeah, I
in the
was gonna
trash,
ask about, I saw that in there.
our
so-
squirrels are already fat and
Yeah,
they get even
I
worse.
think it's a great ordinance. I appreciate the work that went into it. And like I said, I'm thrilled that we're at this step. I'd like to hear the park board recommendations based on the ordinance that's in front of us. And I'd like us to come to some sort of consensus about whether or not we want a fee, need a fee, and what that fee looks
we do
like.
need a fee.
Before we move forward with this.
I was on the other side of this. I said no fee because I polled the staff and they seemed to think it would be negligible. The food truck owners have a different set of I guess, challenges. They have gas and upkeep, and they're not going to be there 7 days. If it rains, they don't show, or bad weather or something like that. So we're talking about 7 days, but really we're not talking about 7 days. And we're not talking about all 7 being filled. We're talking about maybe a few. But, I'm not rushing this or anything like that, and I want input from the park board myself. But school's out today, and we have this complex over there that, is just screaming with kids every day. School buses are just unleashing their whole, and so there's no place to get a soft drink or a snow cone or, so I'd like to get
Oh,
this.
I definitely think we need it,
as,
for sure.
I took a 3-hour tour like Gilligan's Island 4 years ago, a bus tour around all our parks. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And we said that concession stand has to come down. And we demolished that. I remember I worked there in the 60s. I wore a hairnet, imagine that. But worked for $1 an hour over there making snow cones and cotton candy and stuff. But, we haven't had any concessions over there all this time. And so I just think it's, for our kids, it's a good thing, and I'm glad we're all on board
Yeah,
with it.
I
I'd just
think-
like to see it.
What
I
time
think
does
the
the
good
park
news
close?
is by the time that, or I think when we pass some sort of ordinance, because I think we're all in agreement, we want them there and we want to make sure this happens. But it's not going to be difficult to set it up once it goes.
Right.
It'll be pretty quick.
One other
And
point
let me
of
say this.
clarification, it's not 365, it was 1 April to 1 November,
Correct.
and we can make an adjustment on that if the board sees fit.
And
Oh, I
just
think that's good.
for your all's, maybe getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I think that on our next meeting agenda, there may be some items that we will at least consider if you all will come back on a Friday, because there's some things that need to be done before July 1. So if we
okay.
were to send this back to make an amendment to put a fee in, it's possible that you could get a second reading on it and basically get to the same place time-wise, Commissioner Good, as
I'm
you
willing
would
to
otherwise.
compromise if we can get a fee set and come back and do the second reading the
Well, I
next
mean,
meeting.
as
So,
the
Mr.
city manager
Moore,
said, we
what's
had
our-
it in, we took it out, we had it in, we took it out.
What's our course of action here to get this as presented to the park board, and then?
I think we have a motion
What
and
do
a
we have to
second,
do?
and if the sense is not to approve the ordinance as it is currently written, we just vote it down right now and we bring it back the next time with the changes for a new first reading.
Before we do that, let me make, I didn't jump in there. So, first of all, anything to do with the parks individually, I'm gonna wait for your recommendation. And I know that we all respect that, but, I'm gonna rate, until we've had this discussion, I was kind of planning on making that point and then getting to the next reading to hear the recommendation. My commitment to the Parks Board is to do that on anything to do with the parks, and you deserve that. But this discussion of, where we are with the fee, I understand that too, and it's gonna be a great thing. It's definitely progress for sure. We just need to have that discussion.
Is
So,
that
I'm good.
hours 10 to 10? Do you think that's kind of late in the evening? The park closes at 11? What? No, not really.
We're gonna,
I didn't,
I think, say
I
no.
mean,
right
I'm
now
down there
and let it come
probably
back.
every day.
Yeah, that's what he just said.
And, I'm down there with ball games right now till really late in the evening.
Do you eat that late?
So,
Yes, I
so,
do.
just so we can get this wrapped up.
Okay.
At this point, we'll vote or no, obviously, I think we have to vote.
Sounds like we
because
have a vote-
We have
a
to
no
vote,
vote
and
on
we have to
as-
say no. We say no if you choose to do that. So that we can, and
Clean it up.
clean it up and get your suggestions
All right.
to Mr. Moore. We'll get that to the Parks Board. We'll hear that recommendation, and it'll come back, right?
So is the only
Okay.
proposed change on this is the fee? Is that it?
well, and I think I heard some discussion about reconsidering the days and hours, and city manager, when I first drafted this thing, I just left blanks for those, because I thought that needed to come from you all and the Parks Board, not me, but I never got any suggestions, so I filled it in.
So, yeah, we can get you those
It's a good ordinance.
suggestions.
It's 8 pages. You did your due diligence
Fabulous.
with staff, and it's very thorough.
Yep.
No, but I, my point being, I don't think as a staff we're necessarily wed to those hours. If you all think they're not appropriate, then obviously we'll change them.
Well, I think this does, Commissioner Good, I hope you appreciate these comments, but I think we do have a good ordinance in place, and I appreciate the work that's been done. But I do believe per the board's consensus here, it looks like we need just a little bit further discussion to make it happen, okay? So at this point, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, all right.
So we,
We'll come back. We'll get
yes,
it.
we'll present it next time, and we'll get the report from the Parks Board in the meantime, and see what we can do to get something everybody's happy with. Item M, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashe, Kentucky. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed item L.
L.
Item L, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashe, Kentucky, amending ordinance number 8, series of 2021, commonly known and referred to as the Alcoholic Beverage Control Ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item M, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashe, Kentucky, amending the facility use rental information form adopted by ordinance number 43, series of 2016, as amended by ordinance number 104, series of 2016, which establishes rules and regulations for the use of Central Park and other city parks.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Go ahead.
Is this is like a reservation fee that would be refunded, after they use the shelter, or is it a flat fee?
I think the only change on this, Commissioner, is just adding the shelter house, and it's a flat fee.
I'd like to tweak it. I'd like to make it a refundable deposit rather than a $50 fee, where if they clean it, our workers come up and see that it's been cleaned, and then they get their check back. Because if they don't clean it, they don't get their money back. We're having the same problem in the dugouts all over the ball fields and stuff like that. I mean, we're sending park workers in there to clean up after people.
Really?
And that's a lot of money, overtime.
Well, the only thing I can add to this is I contacted the county and asked them how much they charge for their rental house or their shelter houses. $0.
Well,
So-
I think we need to either charge less, like $25, charge less, and keep it, or make this refundable, that $50.
I think refundable deposits are fair, because if the concern is cost, I think that would be negated if they clean up after themselves.
But in that instance, you may be putting a seasonal park worker in the position of making a determination of whether it's clean.
I trust our Parks Department
And
to
do we
make
want
the
to put the burden
determination.
on our administration to try to deal with all these refunds and things? I mean,
I see
maybe
where
we
you're
need to
headed with
look at
that.
this too. You know,
Give
it's-
your
One other
check
point.
and get your check back.
One other point for your consideration is just, for example, and Mr. Murray, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but currently, the shelters are being rented out twice a day on Saturdays. We have had some conflict where people just show up and they say,
Yep.
hey, I was here first. So there's definite value. I'm not hearing anybody saying there's not value to making recommendation, or making reservations.
Reservations.
No, that's not it.
No, that's not it at all.
But will be a situation where there will have to be somebody comes out, if you're going to do that refund, we'll have to inspect that before the next person comes in, so that is additional
Yeah, I
staff
think-
time.
Yeah. I think we should lower it to 25 and let it.
Yeah, I
Keep
think
it.
50 is
It's a
excessive.
little
Lower to
steep.
25 and let them trash it.
Well, my only comment to that is, we have it set so that the food trucks pay $0, and our taxpayers are paying something for
But we're
using a
gonna
shelter
fix-
house, and
Exactly.
so that
Exactly.
concern,
No, okay.
so that concerns me in that respect. I feel like if one thing we can guarantee for our park system is that for the most part, it's free to use. And, not everybody has the money to spend at Camp Landing or even Gaddy Land. And this is one of those gifts to the public that shows we care, that the taxpayers' money is being used for these facilities for those that may not be able to afford venues to get together. And I'm just putting that out there.
I agree with you, Mayor, that our parks should be for our people to use. And the difference in the food trucks is obviously they're making money on being in our park.
And they'll be
We're-
paying
we're
something
leasing space,
because-
and I
Well,
think
I'm just
we'll get
saying,
there.
under the current scenario today.
They'll be paying
But
something.
people having birthday parties, it should be, they've paid for that park anyway. They already have.
Amen.
My only caveat in a fee is I have some skin in reserving that space and holding it.
That's why I think refundable is
Well-
maybe the best option, because you get your money back, you've got money involved, skin in the game, as you say.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you're presuming too that everybody that uses that lives in Ashland. You know that there are people will be coming here to reserve those tables from everywhere else.
And they buy our food and shop in
Well,
our
but I'm
shops.
saying, we're
Right,
talking
right.
about
To the mall
doing it for taxpayers, is
Oh,
what
yeah,
we're
the
saying.
park's for everybody. You said, in that study, it says to us, the city of 20,000 has about 80 to 90,000 in it on a given day, and they're from everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
I like seeing those buses from
Oh,
school
yeah.
districts all over
I'm
coming in.
just making the
South Point,
point that
sure.
it's just not all taxpayers that are using our park.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing for people to come here.
Yeah, the only,
But if you base it on taxpayer.
Mr.
that's
Murray,
all okay.
how's the reservations going? Good? Brisk?
I think one of the other points that hadn't been mentioned is twice a day. There's
Oh.
two opportunities.
Well, what's your opinion on this?
I think what you discussed right now is headed in the right direction.
That
And you're a
is-
great, you're a great politician.
Great job.
Politician in the
Great
room.
job.
You would have to think about
Well
that.
done, Mr. Murray, well done.
Gee,
I love you all.
man,
Wow, I mean,
Wow.
Let me ask this. I'm hearing a consensus on no fee, but I'm not sure I got the consensus on whether you want a refundable deposit or not. Or we just want a
I mean,
reservation system.
to me, I'm trying to think of it from staff's point of view. I mean, if there's no fee, what's this, I'm gonna reserve it for when, I mean, it just seems like you're gonna get a tidal wave of reservation. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong about that, I don't know.
And then it's not being used because somebody has it reserved,
Yeah.
and it's sitting there empty. And
I
it's
think
a weird,
that's
I think
small.
it's a weird line.
I
I think
think
there should be
$25 is not a big amount of money.
But can it not just be a refundable deposit?
Well, I thought about that at first. I think, we either do one or the other.
and they got
It's
some skin in the game because they
$25.
got to clean it.
Yeah. And
Well,
if they
or
don't, they lose
$50
their money.
refundable if the
And it's
staff
paying for
wants to
staff.
deal with giving their check back.
And correct me if I'm wrong, these staff are already on hand in our parks, correct?
Right, the hours
I
will
know.
probably be in question on when they're available. However, I will mention with regards to the deposits, we do certain things similar in other rentals, whether it be the roundhouse or the log cabin. And those are damaged deposits as well. And so that I can tell you that process doesn't work in other venues in the park.
So the
To
roundhouse. will-
clarify, there's activity room of $25, log cabin is $50. And
Those
then
are
the
not
chair-
refundable deposits.
Are those
though.
That's what I
refundable?
wanted-
Those are rentals,
That's what I
right?
wanted him to clarify.
Okay,
But there is also a damaged deposit that's a
okay,
So it's both.
yeah.
All right, folks.
Well, if we're going to have it, that refundable damage deposit, we ought to make it $100.
Okay, fine.
They tear it
Put
up,
your-
and there you go. Carve their
Put your-
initials
Put
and
your
stuff.
number on there. They're going to get it back if they're good.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm,
Well, then you go to your issue that somebody raised about some residents not being able to afford that, and they may not be able to put up the deposit either.
Right, right.
I mean, it's your all's call.
I just feel like the parks is one of the few places that anybody should be able to get to use and afford. And I obviously don't want to burden our staff more than they already are. But I know that this is truly a special place. Our parks are our central park, and I think having those shelter houses there has been a great benefit to families already and community groups. And I don't want to charge our way out of making it available to anyone.
No,
no, I
I
agree, but,
I'm fine with a
listening to
refundable deposit.
a refundable deposit.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I'm fine, but,
I'm
you know.
fine.
Okay.
But either way, it's
All-
gonna have to go back, right?
Right.
But I also, I'm listening to Commissioner Good over here, who's saying that they're trashing the dugouts at the park.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
That's a
Mr. Murray?
Little League problem. That's a,
Do the
But the park board's-
organizations that use our ball fields pay anything for that, or they just reserve them? Okay.
we need to talk about that another time.
Then our shelter houses should be the same.
Well, we don't want it trashed. We don't want them saying they love our park and then trashing things, so.
Let me ask, do you all want a recommendation from the Parks Board
I
on this
think
as well?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to throw this up for a vote now as well. All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So it looks like we have two issues remanded back to the Parks Board for review. At this point, we're going to go into executive session. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All
For the
right.
purpose of discussing that personal threat and litigation and individual personnel matter. Needs to be on the record.
And thank
Please be
you,
on the record.
City Attorney. All right. We're going to go into executive session. No action was taken. Do we have a motion to adjourn or recess?
So moved.
To
Second.
adjourn?
Adjourn.
We're not doing anything tomorrow, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
All right.